What's up, everybody? Welcome to Mongols. We know that there's a ton of new news to discuss this week, including the official announcement of USL Premier, but we are going to put all of that aside for tonight because we are fortunate to have a long-awaited return of the now head coach of your 2026 Pittsburgh Riverhounds, Mr. Rob Vincent. Rob, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it has been too long, but happy to be here and great to see you guys again.
Listen, since the end of the season, we've been asking to have you on, and Grubba's been playing like gatekeeper and like keeping you at arm's length. So blame him. We were talking off air a little bit. Obviously, there's some personal news, some personal congratulations for you and your family. How's everybody doing?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I mean, Olive came along on January 8th, so we're a little over 3 weeks in now. So it's been great. Yeah, we're just kind of getting used to being mom and dad to a newborn again. It's been 7 years, so I had almost seven. So yeah, we're just kind of getting used to that again. But it's been fun. It's been exciting. It feels like a lot's happened just in the past like 2-3 months. I kind of went through a weird spell where everybody kept congratulating me, and I didn't know what it was for. Whether it was because we had a baby, whether it was because we won the championship. So I didn't know.
I distinctly remember it was either our second or our third kid thinking like, this is easy. We've done this before. We know what we're doing. But then you get back and you like sort of put the baby in the bassinet and you're like, crap, we're starting all over again. Like I thought we were done with this. So yeah.
We have all that to look forward to. Right now, like I say, 3 weeks, a lot of sleeping, very little crying, thankfully. But yeah, we got it all to look forward to again.
Yeah.
All right. So before we talk about this season, let's kind of go back to last season. You get the call that you're going to be the interim head coach. What's going through your head at that moment? Like, just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I remember like my stomach just dropping when I get that phone call. Obviously because there's a lot of unknowns, like how is it going to be one day? Is it going to be one game? Is it going to be 1 week? Like I think the first hour of just like kind of a little bit of like shock. But then I remember like driving to the stadium. I was obviously driving to the stadium to see Dan and Tuffy and Jeff, and I just remember thinking like, okay, like I got a job to do now, and just kind of clicking my head into that gear of like, okay, we got a game to win tomorrow. And yeah, that was like, obviously training was done for the week. So it was like, okay, let's plan the team talk. Let's think about what I'd have to say to get the guys going. And then we win that game, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, I mean, so let's talk about that history a little bit. I mean, so you came in 3 weeks before the end of the season, but there was a lot of soccer to play at that point, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I mean, kind of at what point did you realize like, oh, this could actually happen and we could actually go all the way and win this championship?
I don't know, really. I mean, I think the Monterey game was like a big. I remember like walking off the field. Me and Bushy walked off the field in Monterey, thinking like we were onto something here, because we were kind of we just had this like really sweet spot of like the guys were like locked in, but also like they just looked like they were playing really free and enjoying the game. And obviously scored 3 goals that night. And I'm like saying to Bushy, like, dude, if we can play this well next week and take this into the playoffs, like who knows? But also just the idea of a championship also just feels so far away at that point. I don't think that really truly crossed our mind. I think it was more just the idea of going on a run, getting the home playoff game, obviously. And then, then as you guys know, like things just started to kind of fall in our favor. Louisville get knocked out. We get through on PKs, and yeah, it just kind of felt like it did start to feel like maybe this is meant to be. Maybe after the Detroit penalty win, it's like, oh boy, like this, we could be going to a final here.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
So I wanted to ask as well, like, so, I mean, you did that, got through. We talked to a few of the guys. I mean, we saw a lot of things. Josh was there in Tulsa. But what did you do to celebrate?
Yeah, I mean, it was that weird, like, I don't want to say anticlimax because everybody was so happy, but there was that like weird, like going back to the locker room and like it all just kind of drowning in this like emotion. But yeah, I think as many of the guys have said, like we'd kind of already planned this party or kind of get together, I guess, at like a kind of pub/bar that was across the street from the hotel. So that was going to happen, win or lose. I mean, that was kind of one thing that I wanted to make sure happened. It was like, win or lose, like, we're going to celebrate this season. I think everybody was on board with that. That wasn't my idea, but that was like, I wanted that to happen. But yeah, obviously when you win, that becomes a lot more enjoyable. So family, friends, all the players, staff, everybody was there for a good few hours, open tab. So, you know, you can imagine like the drinks were flowing. And then after that, the staff, so me, Dan, Bushy, Sam, our trainer, we went, and James, I think, went to like a nice steak dinner later that evening as well. So yeah, it's a really kind of cool night to just enjoy that feeling. Yeah, and just kind of reflect on it all. And like, I think there was just so many in over that course of that night, like there was just a lot of reminiscing of like the past 6 weeks and how kind of crazy surreal it had been, just kind of thrown into it. But then the way it finished was amazing.
So like that happens, and then how far after that, or how long after that, do they ask you to be the head coach? Like not just interim, but like permanently. And like, what were you feeling at that moment? Like reservations, or just how did that play out?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact, like, I can't, like, I lose track of my days, but it was shortly after the final. I remember Tuffy Vis gave me a call and said, "Are you okay to jump on a call with Tuffy?" And it sounds terribly arrogant to say, but it's the truth. Like, I don't mean it this way, but like, I was kind of like, that's the only reason he could be calling me, right? Like at this point, surely, like, so I kind of like mentally thought, okay, maybe this is going to happen. But yeah, I mean, I didn't know. So, but no apprehension. I mean, just like, yeah, absolutely. Like, let's get to work. I'm excited about this. So
That's awesome. I know we were all kind of on pins and needles. We had hoped that you were going to get it. And yeah, you threw us off a little bit. I think you did an interview with John Morrissey where you put your name as assistant coach, Rob Vincent, at the bottom. And we're like, has nothing happened yet? Like, what is going on? So, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I had to like, just, there was like that, you know, couple of week period or whatever where, you know, nobody else knew. And I'm like, I just have to keep playing it off. But I obviously knew. I think I did know when I spoke with John. I didn't even tell him though. So
I mentioned the past few weeks we've talked to both Bushy and Adam, and it sounds like between those two, you guys are operating almost like a completely different club. What 2 or 3 things, you know, when you stepped into this role, did you know kind of right away that you wanted to do differently?
I think the big thing, and I would even say that this was in like the 6-week kind of interim period as well. It was like, you know, I am young. I know that. I'm not, you know, the perfect coach. I never will be, but I'm like, I need your guys' help. Like, everybody needs to have a voice here. And we all need to collaborate and talk ourselves through this process. And sure, we're going to make mistakes, but let's make sure that we kind of don't leave any boxes unchecked, and let's talk our way through it. So yeah, kind of going into the off season again, it's been a very kind of, you know, Adam used the phrase think tank last week. Like, that's literally what it's been like, you know, in the office pretty much from December through to now. It's like, it's just every day we're all sitting in the same room. You know, we may be doing our own thing, but then, you know, we're talking players, we're talking, you know, the game plan for next year, the tactics, we're talking just a little bit of everything. And it's actually been just a really fun process to be a part of. Obviously, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves too. So I definitely feel that pressure to continue winning, because that ultimately is the most important thing. But yeah, I certainly could not do it without them. And it's been, yeah, I just want to make sure that we all as a staff feel like we're all doing this together.
Well, and we know like Adam is bringing in some form of focus on stats and analytics and things like that. Is there anything that you have come in and you've said, I want to change this one thing, even if it's like I'm starting training an hour early or anything like that?
No, I think like I wanted there to be, I mean, there's probably a couple of little things that, like, you know, just over the past 2 years, and maybe even thinking back to when I was a player, like little things that I thought maybe need to change. Like, I guess probably one thing that sticks out on the top of my head is like, you know, travel times. Like we would travel usually before, like when we were traveling on a Friday, we would travel and then usually train on location when we arrived. And I think one thing I always felt as a player, and I kind of tried to gauge the guys' temperature on this as well, is like when you land and you fly for 5-6 hours and then you land and then you go to training, like that's just not a very productive session. So kind of a decision that we made this season was we're going to always try and train in Pittsburgh in the morning and then fly out in the afternoon. So you actually get to your destination a little bit later. Again, everybody has their own preference. It's not that either way is right or wrong, but that was kind of, I guess, one decision that you would say. But no, I think everything else is trying to maintain some continuity, because there has been, a great culture in the locker room in terms of the guys that we've had. And one of the other things that I'm sure we can talk about too is like we wanted to make sure we kept a large core of the players from last year. There was so many great guys in the locker room last year. Obviously, we lost a couple, but we wanted to make sure that we kept those guys who were out of contract, get them tied down pretty quickly and get that taken care of. And so that culture now can hopefully continue moving forward.
Yeah. So, Rob, as you kind of think about, I mean, it's been 2 months that you've been actually doing the job of head coach and fully doing that. Is there anything you've already learned that you didn't expect, or something that like has come up? You're like, oh man, like I could have never anticipated this is a part of the role, but here we go.
I don't know. I mean, like there's definitely days when I really kind of feel like, oh man, like there's just a lot going on today. And now everybody's looking at me to make that final decision, like whether it is like the training times or whether it is like a preseason scrimmage, like are we going to kick off at this time, or, just so little things like that. It's like everybody's now looking at me to make that final decision. So that's, I guess, a little bit strange to get used to. So there's definitely some days where you're like, holy cow, like, did I make the right call? Like, what's the repercussions of this one going to be? But no, generally, like I say, I do feel prepared. It's weird because if you'd have said to me like 3 months ago or 4 months ago, like before this all happened, like would you be ready to be head coach like next season? I'd be like, probably not. But then all of a sudden you just get thrust in and you just deal with it. And I think that 7-week period like made me think, yeah, like I think I can do this and surround myself with good people, and we have that here. So yeah, I'm enjoying it, and like I say, I'm every day feel like I'm getting my kind of more comfortable with it.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's kind of talk a little bit about players on the roster and whatnot. Because last year, I mean, you just mentioned like you wanted to keep a core group, but there's also some differences. I mean, you inherited the entire roster 3 weeks before the end of the season and had to work with that and with a tactical setup that was already established. And so now that you have a little bit more control over what is, I mean, you have all the control. Yeah, that's cool.
Kind of.
Over how
has control too, but fortunately we're on the same page. Yeah.
Sure, but like now that you're active in those conversations and you're the one that the decision rests with, tell us a little bit more about kind of like what you like how you build the roster this year, and what you've learned about signing players now compared to what things look like a couple of years ago. Yeah,
I mean, again, I think the first part of that was making sure that we got as many of those returners back and locked down. And then it really is. I mean, we literally just have this whiteboard of like signed players, and it's like, okay, like what do we want the team to look like next year? What pieces do we need to add to get there? I wanted to make sure that we did add, more experience. I think, there was times last year, particularly early in the season, where some of the younger guys were maybe struggling through certain moments, and they came through that obviously. But it was like, let's sign a couple more established guys who can instantly come and contribute and help us get off to a good start. But yeah, I mean, it's literally been like, okay, like what do we want out of a striker? It just so happens that Dika perfectly kind of fits that bill. Okay, it's like, okay, we wanted to find somebody who could give us more goals out of midfield. Robbie and Charles were brilliant at the end of last season, but they were really kind of the only two that fitted that role in terms of the way I see it. So it was like, okay, let's find another guy who can also compete for minutes in that role and give us goals and give us assists. And then Elliott came up, and it was like, yeah, he's perfect. Like, he's almost kind of this, I don't want to say unknown quantity, but it's like we had conversations with him kind of, over a couple of weeks, and he's just really hungry to kind of prove himself, and just felt like he just was waiting to explode at this level. So I think early signs in preseason is that he's definitely a guy who can have a huge impact. Obviously, there was a big hole to fill in goal and at centre back. And then again, the addition of Adam and just kind of his, the way he thinks about the game and the way he's had to go through the recruiting process in college. Obviously, it's a little bit of a different space, but he, along with Vis and myself, like, we really just got on the same page, and Bushy, of course, in terms of like, okay, what do we want a centre back to look like in our team? Let's go and find someone who fits that mold. And then you land on players, you land on 4 or 5 guys, and then you start going down that path. So yeah, again, it's kind of eye-opening. Again, it's the first time I've had to be the one who has to make those final decisions on players, along with this. But I do feel like we've got a really good process in terms of identifying the players we want to go after. We've obviously lost some along the way. I mean, there was players we really liked, and then they end up signing elsewhere. So you kind of learn those hard lessons too. You learn what you could have done a little bit better. Even back in, early December, we were talking with players, and we would think that we'd done a really good job in terms of presenting Pittsburgh to them as an option, and then they go and sign somewhere else, and it's like, okay, what could we have done better? And so when we did talk with Elliott and Trevor Aman and Victor, it's like, okay, like, now we've refined our process a little bit. Like, when we're talking to them on a Zoom call like this, like, we know what we need to say, we know what we need to show them, we know what questions they're going to want to ask. So again, and all of this just comes back to like this open kind of space that we've had in the office every day. We're just constantly like fixing things and making things better on a daily basis. So it's been great.
We're kind of used to seeing more like college kids signed at this point, or like, is that a pipeline that you still think is valid for this time in the league? Do you see, more college guys being signed to the first team, or are you kind of not looking in that direction?
No, we are. Yeah, there will be. We have several guys in with us right now during preseason who are, came through our combine. A couple of others who maybe didn't come through the combine, but we kind of tracked through college as well. So yeah, that's definitely still a route. And I think also when you kind of think of the budgetary constraints that we may have, like, that's another part of it too, right? Like, when you have this whiteboard, it's like, okay, like, we can go and spend a bit bigger here. And then in maybe more of a depth position, like, we know it's going to be maybe a lower salary player. So yeah, I think there's definitely still, I think, a lot of eyes on the college game from our perspective. And again, we have several guys in right now who are doing really, really well, who, at least a couple of those will probably end up on the roster by the end of preseason. So yeah, I think we'd be crazy to kind of move away from that model. But again, there was some big gaps that we felt like we needed to fill, and we needed to go after experience. And that's where, again, Chico came in, Elliott came in, Victor came in, Nico, like those guys, Trevor Man. Like, we just felt like those were big holes that needed filled. And then obviously now we still have, 5, 6, 7 roster spots open, and they're probably going to be more on the college side. So.
Rob, to give you a sense of kind of the outsider's view of the team, every offseason, we kind of look at who the team is signing, and we have to kind of make guesses as to like, how's the team going to line up? How are they going to play? Are we going to do something different? One of the biggest questions we keep getting asked is this going to be Lily Ball all over again? Is it going to be something different? Bushy alluded to the fact that you guys might want to play out of the back a little bit. Is there anything you can share about how you're thinking about setting up and what we may see from this team, or what you're hoping to see from this team?
Yeah, I think the one thing I do want to stress is that, like, this team has been built over the past, close to a decade on defensive stability and being really hard to beat. And I think even when you just look across the league in general, and I know Adam touched on this as well, like, the teams who generally do well and finish high up in the table and go on to win championships generally have very good defenses. So we'd be crazy to like just throw that out the window and just start off on this new path. So again, you talk about the continuity of bringing players back, the players we recruit, the mentality of those guys who are willing to defend and willing to, have that kind of Pittsburgh blue collar attitude on the field. Like, that's still a massive priority for us. And we kind of tried to set the tone even early this week and in kind of the first few days of preseason. It's like, listen, everybody's going to have to work. Everybody's going to have to do the dirty work. We're kind of off the ball and not behind the ball. But I would also love us to be, much more progressive, score more goals, be more attacking, entertain the fans. So that's hopefully a step that we can take forward. So, I don't really want to get into the whole like head coach cliches of like, high possession, all that kind of, good stuff that every head coach seems to say nowadays. It's kind of hard to just kind of give an answer on that without sounding cliche. But, I think if you look at those kind of games late in the season where we did have more possession and we had more forward passes, more completed forward passes, more kind of, more possession in the attacking half. Like that is certainly how I want it to look. I think when you talk about playing out the back, I think we want to be a team that's comfortable in possession. I think Nico's a player who can use his feet, but also again, if you just look at the league, like playing out the back on itself doesn't get you anywhere. Like you look at New Mexico in the playoffs, they went to Tulsa and it just completely they fell on their face there. So again, it would be crazy to kind of try and flip this whole thing on its head and turn into this ultra high possession team. Winning games is the most important thing. So be hard to beat, don't concede many goals and find ways to score more goals as well. So that's the way, hopefully.
I mean, as Liz just pointed out in the chat, sometimes it feels like over 40 possession is bad for us. So,
I want to say for you, Rob, like we've talked about this, and obviously you listen sometimes because you brought up Adam's interview, but like this is Mike's thing that like possession that we don't win when we have high possession. So I just got to call Mike out on that in front of you.
No, I'm very aware of that over the past, couple of years for sure. I even felt that as a coach, and it's hard because like you're playing well in a game and you have all this possession. It's like, what are you supposed to do? Like just keep giving the ball away and just like reduce your possession. So again, I think the one thing that we as a staff were really proud of at the end of last season was we did have more of the ball and we still weren't conceding goals. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of that came down to just paying real attention to where we kept the ball. Obviously still making it an emphasis of like keeping the ball in the attacking half, but then also just that defensive structure behind the ball. So I did make, a couple of little tweaks there down the run to make sure that like, okay, we're going to have a lot of the ball. The Detroit game, the Hartford game, we were like 60+% possession. Yeah. But as long as the structure behind the ball was good, like I was super proud of the team. I think it was the Detroit game. Like we like blew away kind of like our previous record on like opponent half recoveries. Like every time we lost it, we won it back super, super fast, high up the field. So I think that's how you counteract that. So yeah, listen, in this league, I mean, you're not necessarily going to be able to go to Charleston on opening day and have 65% possession. So another part of kind of my job and our job is understanding the league and understanding that you play in different climates, different environments, different field surfaces. So, it's not a one size fits all approach, but certainly a high mark. I think like if we can be that team that just kind of pins team in the half and just are relentless and just don't let them breathe and create chance after chance, and then counter press and win the ball back quickly and don't let them get out. I think that's certainly how I want it to look.
One other question on setup, and then we'll move on. Are you envisioning a back three, a back four, or you don't want to say? And you don't have to say if you don't want to say.
No, I mean, I'll say. I mean, like early in preseason, we've kind of gone in with the back three in mind. But I think part of it too is like we want to be adaptable enough to be able to do both. I think the other part too as well is like we want to be fluid enough that we're in a game. Like sometimes a back three can become a back five, and it becomes like a more defensive feel. Like. Again, if you look at the last 6 or 7 games of the season last year, we gave a lot more freedom for Junior and Luke to get forward, and then Perrin when he came in. So now you go from, you can think of it as a back five where those guys don't go forward, or you can think of it as a back three where those guys are going forward, and we put a lot more responsibility on Brad to kind of be that pivot in front of the back three. So, I think you can play a back three and be more attacking, or you can play a back four and be more defensive. Like, again, I think we hope to be adaptable to the point where, on a game-to-game basis, we may have to shift. But to answer your question, I mean, early on, we're kind of thinking more in line with a back three. I think that fits the players that we have. And again, we do still want to be a team that doesn't give up goals. So, giving ourselves the best chance to do that.
Yeah. Can I follow up on something you said there? You talked a moment ago kind of about, as coach, knowing the league. And so, I mean, you've been with the team in a coaching capacity for a couple of years, but you were with the team for a long time as a player. And so I'm kind of interested, as you look kind of like your perspective of what the league was as a player to where the league is now. Yeah, tell us a little bit how you kind of see some similarities, some differences, and your thoughts on that.
I think it's mainly differences, honestly. I mean, the league has grown so much. I'm not going to try and do the maths again now, but I did like some maths in my head a few weeks back, or maybe a few months back. Like the teams that I used to play against back in 2015, like there's not many of them left. Almost every team in the league now is different. So, the league has come so far in the past 10, 12 years. So, again, I think the one thing that is still similar is the fact that you have to go to all these different places and you have to fly across the country and play on grass. Like, like when we played Phoenix, for example, I remember looking back at like pretty much their whole season. Like the last time they played on turf was like 6 months earlier. So it was like, this is an advantage for us. And then obviously when you go to the West, it's an advantage for them as well. Like when we went to Tulsa, like it was really hard to just get used to that field in the space of 24 hours. We trained in Tulsa the day before, but you can't get used to playing on grass when you've played your last 3 or 4 months of games, and trained on turf. So I think it's the environmental things that are honestly the biggest kind of challenges. And that was obviously the case back when I played too. But now this league has grown so much that the level is much higher now than when I played. And I just think it's a much more, I think it's just higher level. I won't say more difficult because it was still tough to make playoffs back then. Everything's relative, but I think.
Well, speaking of change, another big change this season is the fact that we have a 2-team now, Hounds 2, and we're just curious, like, how does that relate to the first team? Do you see anything there as far like a pipeline other than just developing younger talent? Are you going to utilize them at all during the season, or how's that looking to work?
Yeah, I mean, we definitely want that to be, kind of intertwined. I think Viss uses the term, it's a first team initiative, meaning like it's definitely something that is, I don't think we'd be doing it if it didn't have a direct link to the first team. So I think how it will look in terms of like in this first year, particularly, I mean, Josh and even Adam's helping a lot with kind of the recruitment for that team. We're being really ambitious with the players we want to bring in. I mean, top college guys, obviously some of our, better academy players will also be a part of that, but like we're being aggressive with the way we're going after top college guys. And then if they do well in the summer, I mean, now we've had them in the building for 2-3 months, and now you go into next season, we've seen them. Maybe we have the kind of inside track on those guys. I think also anybody who's doing really well will have the opportunity to literally just slide over to Field 1 and train with us, and kind of get in with the first team. I think that's probably the most obvious way that I can put it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, going to be something that I'm, maybe not involved in on a daily basis in terms of training, but watching their games, keeping an eye on guys. Obviously in the past and even this off season, you have the combine. You can kind of watch guys game film, but if you can get some of those top guys in over 2-3 months and see what their daily habits are like, see who they are as people, then I think that'll be really helpful.
Does that pipeline work in reverse too? Like if you have somebody pick up an injury and you want to get them minutes, can you send them down to the 2 team, or does it not work that way?
I'm pretty sure we can. Yeah. I know we've done that in the past with the USL Academy, which is slightly different. I hope I'm not speaking out of term here, but I think that is a possibility. But yeah, I mean, again, we want them to be connected. We want that USL 2 team to feel very professional, and they're going to be in the same building as us. They're going to have the same access to the gym and the field, the analysis, everything that we do. So yeah, again, I think it's a huge step, and it's been in the works for a little while. I think it's really kind of sped up here in the past few months, in terms of like making sure that it gets done and that it's in place for this next summer. But yeah, I think it can only be beneficial to everyone.
Yeah. So, I mean, Rob, in the past, when you've talked to us, you've talked about reading different books and whatnot. I mean, life's been crazy for you. Are you reading anything right now? If so, great. Like, what can you recommend?
Yeah.
If not, what's on your list that you want to get back to?
I did actually. So, I mean, one book that I love, which I think for any coach, they just absolutely need to read, is The Coach's Guide to Teaching by Doug Lemov. He was a guy who, I think I had the book before I did my US Soccer A license, but then he was a guest speaker on the A license too. So he's unbelievable. I mean, he's a teacher, but he's kind of branched over into the coaching world and how those two are related in terms of how you can, use teaching skills to, and how that translates over into being a coach. So to your point, I mean, I was like, all right, a month before preseason, I was like, I'm going to read that book again. I'm going to, take all my notes. And then I'm just like way too busy. So I got about like 20 pages done. And I'm like, every night when I'm going to bed, I'm just too tired to like read. So I probably just need to finish reading that because there's so many great tips and just how to communicate with players, how to set up your sessions for the best way for information to be retained. But yeah, like I said, there's not a lot of spare time right now.
Yeah. Adam mentioned last week that you guys are working on your key performance indicators for the year, sort of setting those goals. We've talked in the past about just how difficult it is to, go and win the Player Shield and then, hopefully be hot at the right time to actually go on the run and win the championship. This is your first season as a head coach. Do you have any goals that you've put out there? And don't say like win the champion. We know win the championship. Like we asked Chico that, and Chico was like win the championship, and we're like that's not giving us anything. Hey, yeah. What are you hoping to accomplish this year?
Tough one because I think like I've always just tried to, and I hate to give the cliche answer, but I've always just tried to kind of like be where my feet are and just like do the absolute best that I can do every single day. And so that's kind of what I'm doing now. Again, like some days it's, I'm experiencing new things, obviously as a first time head coach. So, I'm just trying to attack it as best I can. Again, Adam's been brilliant. Bushy, I knew would be brilliant. And having those guys around me has been super, super helpful. So, yeah, I mean, the obvious goal is to just win as many games as possible. But I think, this is my first time doing it. Like even just here, just in the past few weeks of like, what does a full preseason look like? How are we going to plan that out? And just little things like that. So I think just become more comfortable in this role. And so hopefully we have a really good season, whatever that looks like. And then, by the time next year comes around, everybody's just kind of much more prepared and just keep improving kind of every year. And, you talk about those key performance indicators. Again, that's something that we kind of wanted to kind of nail down as a staff. And we're still kind of in the process of doing that. But I think we have some kind of clear ones, which again, I think how we want the team to look, we want that to be measurable. And we want to know, okay, even if we drew 0-0, like I said to you in the playoffs, like, I don't think, and maybe you guys would disagree, but like I don't think we were necessarily a team that only deserved one goal in that playoff run. Like we created plenty of chances, we missed a lot of chances, and again, I think if the team looks like that moving forward, in terms of winning the ball back quickly, high up the field, those are things we can measure and we can say, okay, like we're doing the right thing. We're winning the ball back high up the field. We're getting lots of chances inside the box. We're getting a lot of crosses off. Like we're doing all the right things here. So let's not fret if the goals aren't coming straight away. And then you can flip that as well. Like, how are we stopping the opposition getting into our 18, things like that. So without kind of getting into the weeds on that stuff, I think it's just been good to kind of really have clarity on that process with Adam and with Bushy. And we're also doing that for the players too. I mean, like giving the guys like, measurables that they can look after as well. So, you think about, central midfielders, for example, like how many forward passes are you playing in a game? What's the percentage? how many chances are we creating as players? So I think little things that those guys can latch onto, and the thing we say to them is like, don't get kind of paralyzed by the numbers, but they are things that we can track, and if you're trying the right things and putting yourselves in the right areas, then they'll usually kind of even out along the way.
So moving to a different topic, Everton. So how you feeling this year? Rest of the season going on here? I mean, we're not in relegation battles, which is nice. But
I was just thinking that today in the car. I was like, okay, like at least this year we're not having to worry about relegation. I don't know. Some weeks good, some weeks bad. I mean, for the past 3-4 years, it's been so like gut wrenching almost every week, and to this year, just like not be worried about what might be happening come May. It's been nice. Plus, we've just had a few like really nice surprise wins, like beating Villa away, beating Man United away. It's just nice to have some good times again.
I threw that question in there at the last minute. I'm like, oh, Everton question.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got kind of a follow-up question on that. I mean, do you still have time to watch with everything going on? But then I guess also like I'm thinking about like this weekend's fixtures, and David Moyes got a yellow card for celebrating that goal. So like, what can we expect when we see you getting a yellow card on the sideline? What is that going to look like?
I don't know. I mean, if that end of the season was anything to go by, I mean, anytime I was unhappy with the refereeing or anything, I would just tell Bushy to stand up and go and talk to the board. So he's happy doing that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I definitely know I celebrated the goals for sure. Like I was jumping around and celebrating those, but then I think like as the game gets later on, like when we were beating Rhode Island 1-0, like it's to get a bit more serious. Like I think it is important for coaches to like remain composed and remain calm on the side, because if the players start to see you kind of jumping or looking nervous and looking anxious and screaming and yelling and making rash substitutions, like that just kind of that trickles over onto the field too. So I think making sure that I stay calm, and I think sometimes just sitting down and kind of trusting the guys that they can do the right thing, I think that's important too.
Yeah. Well, Rob, we know that this is an insane time in your life right now with everything that you have going on. We really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. We are more than thrilled that you're at the helm. We can't wait to see all that you bring to the club and this team. Thanks for joining us, man. We really, really appreciate it.
Anytime. I love chatting with you guys, and looking forward to a great season.
Thanks, Rob. Good luck, man.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Later.